For 12 long years, I lived deep in the backwoods of Breathitt County, Kentucky. My nights were often spent on coon hunting expeditions, a pastime that was more about letting the dogs run while my friends and I drank stolen beer and got high. It was during one of these nights that I realized just how strange and deadly Kentucky could be. Coming from the city, I wasn't prepared for the eerie isolation of this place. Breathitt County had no gangs, but it had clans of backwards, terrifying hillbillies. Some of these people seemed like they'd never met anyone outside their own twisted family tree. One October night, around 1 in the morning, my friends James, Brian, and I were out hunting. The air was cold, our breath visible in the moonlight, and the whiskey barely kept us warm. We were tired of our usual hunting grounds, so we decided to try a new spot called Frozen. After parking at a friend's house, we led the dogs up the mountain, lit up a joint, and waited. The dogs soon hit on a coon, and we followed. When we reached the top, we scanned the trees with our spotlights, expecting to find the coon. But what we found wasn't an animal. It was a child, naked, filthy, with long, matted blonde hair and emaciated limbs. His eyes reflected the light in a deep, bloody red, like a wild animal's. We were frozen, staring at this thing that shouldn't be. The boy just stood there, breathing slowly, before growling and leaping from tree to tree, disappearing into the night. The dogs took off after him, barking strangely, like they were scared. We followed, and soon we found them. 2 of the dogs were barking wildly, while the third, my beloved hound Copper, hung from a tree by his intestines. Rage filled me as I searched for the killer, and that's when I saw him. Another inbred figure, older this time, his face twisted and deformed. Fueled by anger, I charged him, but he vanished into the trees. I woke up being carried by Brian, who explained that more of them had attacked, killing the rest of our dogs. We ran back to the truck and decided to seek revenge. Armed to the teeth, we headed into the dark forest, determined to wipe out the twisted clan that had taken so much from us. We searched and searched, but we couldn't find them. Sunrise came, and all we saw were our dead dogs on the ground. We ended up calling the police about it. It's been years since then, but I still couldn't believe what we saw that night. I never want to go back in that forest again.
When I was little, me and my parents were driving from church through a road that crossed through a sugarcane field. It was a shortcut to our house, but several women, usually victims of sexual assault, had been found dead here. With the only light coming from the car lights, it was pitch black. I was looking into the sugarcanes that the light was revealing when I saw a woman with no shoes bolted from the sugarcane field into the road as she screamed and waved her arms. My dad stopped despite my mum telling her not to. She got in the car and sat next to me. My mum gave her a handkerchief so she could clean the blood on her left temple while my dad hightailed it out of there. She said she was kidnapped earlier that night by 3 men in the city nearby. 2 of the men stayed in the car, while the third one took her into an abandoned shed near the sugar mill. The man hit her several times in the face, so she was stunned by pain. She then said the man turned her on her back while he started taking his pants. At that moment, she said, was praying for strength and just felt a rush inside her that made her kick the guy in the chest, who now had his pants down. She then ran through the shed's back door and jumped into the sugarcane fields and ran away. God knows how long she spent hiding and running under the cover of the sugarcane plants before we found her. Weirdly though, when my dad said he was going to take her to the police station, she begged him not to. My mum gave my dad the biggest stink eye I ever saw because she thought the woman was probably in trouble with the law. I kept looking at her, scared she would pull out a gun or something, but sometimes backwards to see if a car was following us, since it's a one-way road. Finally, we reached the highway and drove into the city where this woman lived. She requested to be dropped at a friend's house, which happened to be in a very bad part of the city, known for sexual and drug trafficking. She said thanks to my dad, and he gave her his Bible and told her God had given her a second chance tonight. "Make it count," he said. She then knocked on her friend's door, and we left once she got inside the house. My dad saved her, but my mum was furious at my dad for endangering us. And she's right. What if she was part of an act to carjack us? I don't know even if I would have done what my dad did had it been me in his place with my children in the back seat.
I'm going to be a little vague about it because of something that ended up happening with the pastor that owned the cabin. Happened in Lawrence County, though. The story goes that a local pastor back in the 70s and 80s had a cabin that he'd let people stay in sometimes. Small place, just a couple rooms and beds and all that. Nothing special, except he kept one of the doors chained and locked shut, and some stories mention that there were children's shoes nailed all along the walls near the ceiling. The story he'd tell the people staying in the cabin was that once you go to bed and turn out the lights, you do not get out of bed, no matter what. Once you get in bed, you stay in bed until sunrise. The rest of the story goes that his family had, for the lack of a better way of describing it, a demon. Some stories around here just call it a creature, but a lot of them specifically call it a demon. Someone in the family had been involved in some stuff they shouldn't have been involved in and had managed to seal a demon in this cabin behind the chained and locked door. Well, the story I heard from one of my friend's dads is that when he and his brother were in their 20s, they stayed in that cabin one night and decided to see what would happen if they got out of bed. Friend's dad's brother got out of bed while friend's dad stayed in bed. He said he heard the chains rattling and sliding loose from the door and the locks hitting the floor. And a few moments later, his brother starts screaming and a loud thump sound every few seconds. His brother ran back to bed, covered up, and didn't say anything the rest of the night. He said he heard the chains go back and the locks lock again, which made no sense because it was on the outside of the door in the room they were in, and they were the only ones in the room. The next morning, the brother said he couldn't see what it was because it was pitch black, but it felt like he was being beaten by a heavy stick. Now, what it probably was, back in the mid-90s, as the pastor was arrested for child molestation. The cabin where this all happened ended up getting burned down to the ground. He apparently scared the kids that were staying in the cabin, saying he'd protect them from the house and other stuff like that, to coax them into whatever it was that he wanted to do to the kids. Guy ended up dying in prison.
I hope you found these stories as chilling and unsettling as I did. It's a stark reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more frightening than fiction. If you enjoyed these tales of suspense, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling content. This is your host, Nicholas Black. Until next time.